Am I the a-hole for refusing to give up my dog for my dad's fiancée and her son? Original post. I'm really upset about this right now. I'm 17 female. My parents divorced when I was 12. It was really rough. They pretty much hate each other and still have trouble doing anything together where I'm concerned. I try not to talk about them to each other and just keep things separate. All the fighting and chaos was hard on me. It was affecting my mood and schoolwork when it was all going down. So, my dad felt bad and let me have a dog to help me feel better. Someone nearby had Malamute puppies, so I picked out one and his name is Tycho and he's my best friend. Even on the weeks I'm with my mom, I stop by after school every day to take him to the dog park to play and get his cuddles in. I love this dog. My dad started dating Melanie a few years ago. I don't really connect with her. We're just really different and she's way too touchy. But she makes my dad happy, so whatever. Her son Ben, 9 male, is autistic and needs a lot of accommodations. He gets really upset and has meltdowns when things change or are done differently. He's also really scared of Tycho, even though as far as I know, Tycho has never done anything to scare him. He's a really laid-back and well-behaved dog. Dad and Melanie recently got engaged, and they want to go ahead and move her and Ben in so that they can get rid of their apartment and save money. My dad told me about it and said that since Ben is afraid of Tycho and needs a stable environment at home, Tycho is going to have to go somewhere else. My mom's townhouse doesn't have room for him, and my grandparents aren't in good enough health to look after a big dog, so we would have to rehome him. I admit I didn't take it very well, and we had a big fight. I told him that no way was I going to give up my dog, and I'm going to college next year anyway, so they can put off the move until the spring when I can find a place to take him with me. My dad says they need to do the move over the holidays and Ben is more important than a dog. I told him if he gives away my dog, I'll never forgive him, and that he obviously thinks Ben is more important than me too. My dad is mad now because I'm making this a choice between me and his fiancé basically. Melanie's having second thoughts about the engagement since I don't want to live with them. My mom is mad at my dad and they're fighting again, and I'm afraid to leave Tycho alone because he might not be there when I get back. My aunt says I'm being childish and that my dad deserves to be happy. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Info, why do they need to move over the holidays? Seems arbitrary. I think it's something to do with her lease or something. I don't know. Maybe also having time to move. My dad just said that it would be a lot more trouble and expensive to wait. What a lame excuse. Basically, it's just about convenience. Then saving some money and not going through the trouble of waiting is more important than allowing you to keep your dog. OMG, your dad really sucks. Info, can you stay with your grandparents? I'm going to see if they would be willing. They could probably use the help anyway. But my dad is going to throw a fit, and I don't want him to make things hard on them either. I'm going to talk to them this afternoon after school. Why would your dad throw a fit? He wants the dog to go so his new family can move in. You've said it clearly you want the dog to be with you. Surely this is a solution that fits the criteria? They've been fighting over custody stuff since the divorce and my dad is super strict about time. He won't want me to move totally out, but I'll have to if Tycho goes to my mom's or grandparents to take care of him. I guess my mom wins if that happens. Since your intention is to take him with you when you move out, is it possible to have someone you know foster him for a few months? The dog, not the crotch critter. Would your grandparents be able to manage it for a short time, or can you stay with them to help them out for a few months? I'm going to talk to my grandparents again this afternoon, I think. I'm so afraid my dad is just going to take Tycho while I'm at school. So I might just grab him and take him to my mom's for a couple of days until I can figure something out. She doesn't have a yard and the place is too small for a big dog long term. Maybe if I can move in with the grands, I can help them out with the chores, the property, and keep my dog with me. They have plenty of room. My dad won't like that though, and I'm guessing there's going to be another lawyer showdown if I do that. Now for the updates. I talked to my mom and grandparents after school. I brought Tycho to my mom's place this afternoon, and I'm going to take him to my grandparents tomorrow. I'm going to split time between them and my mom for a while, and my grandparents said that if I go to college nearby, I can live with them while I study to make sure I don't lose my dog. So I'm going to look at maybe doing 2 years at a local college, and then transferring to a university later. I haven't told my dad yet, but I will after I get Tycho saddled tomorrow. I already went online and made sure his chip information is up to date with all of my info and my mom's place as backup. Pretty sure all hell is going to break loose. But honestly, I'd do almost anything to not lose my dog, including just not going to college right now if that's what I have to do. He takes care of me, so I have to take care of him. Second update. It's been a rough few days. My dad flipped his lid when I told him I wasn't coming back to his place, and he and my mom are duking it out right now. My mom's lawyer asked me a bunch of questions and then said not to worry about it. Melanie called to find out what was going on, so I told her that if living with her and Ben means I'll lose my dog, I'm just not going to live there anymore. And she tried to talk me out of it because my dad didn't want to lose me, but I told her that's just how it is. I think they're fighting now too. My grandparents said my dad is being totally unreasonable and is not allowed to come on their property. Gonna be a fun Christmas. I'm just going to stay at my grandparents and try to keep my head down until I go back to school. But Tycho seems to like it here. He has a lot more space to run around and still gets to sleep next to my bed, so he's happy at least. Final update. Okay, last update. So Melanie broke it off with my dad. My dad didn't talk to me for a while, but he finally asked to have lunch. So my grandpa went with me because he wanted to make sure I was safe and my dad didn't yell at me. My dad apologized for trying to make me give up Tycho and wants me to come back home. I told him I would come visit, but I'm still afraid he'll take my dog. Living with my grandparents has also been really nice. It's quiet, they appreciate me helping out with the farm, and my grandma's teaching me how to cook. He wasn't happy but said he understood, and we worked out a plan for me to visit for dinner a few days on the weeks that used to be his weeks. And I'm dropping by to see my mom most days on her weeks, but spending most of my time with my grandparents. I got a scholarship to the local branch of the state university, and it's only an hour and some away, and has the degree program I want, so I think I'm going to go there for at least the first 2 years. I'm going to talk to admissions about getting a waiver from living on campus since I'm helping my grandparents. Both my parents are going to chip in on an allowance for me and Tycho while I'm in school. My mom says my grandparents can relax more and are feeling better with me there. Also, they love Tycho being around now too. So it's the best option for everyone and I'll be able to budget for vet visits and everything. My dad is still mad at my mom and Melanie, but he doesn't want me to miss out on college. And he seems to be more himself after the first week of visits. Thank you all for the advice. I'm so relieved this has worked out. I've had so much anxiety over Christmas about all of this, but I get to keep Tycho. Things are mending with my dad and I'm on track for college. Trying to get rid of your kid's beloved pet for a new love interest is a surefire way to alienate them. He broke his kid's trust. It's really hard to come back from that. You can see it in her post. Even though the fiancé isn't in the picture anymore, she's still scared that her father's going to take away her dog. And there's always going to be this voice in the back of Opie's head asking, if Melanie didn't leave him, would he have still admitted he was wrong? Would he have still tried to make me get rid of the dog? And there's nothing her father can do to truly answer that question for her. That repeated fear that dad would secretly steal the dog away just gutted me. That is a huge weight to live with, and a level of distrust that you don't come back from. My dad apologized for trying to make me give up Tycho and wants me to come back home. I told him I would come visit, but I'm still afraid he'll take my dog. Dad doesn't realize how much trust he has broken with his daughter. To Dad, Tycho is just a dog, but to Opie, Tycho is like a brother. He was there for Opie when her parents weren't. Her father threatened Opie's family. Tycho is part of her family, and all because they couldn't wait just a few months. Apologies don't restore trust. Forgiveness means the conflict is settled, but that doesn't mean you'll be trusted next time. I think her trust was broken long ago. Maybe because of my own trauma I'm reading too much between the lines, but she hasn't learned how to cook. Her dad gets fired up at the notion she'll live somewhere else, and she comments about how quiet it is at her grandparents, when she hasn't experienced her dad's partner and kid living with her yet. Something tells me that her dad generally isn't the best. And Grandpa had to come with her to make sure her dad didn't yell at her or make a scene. Something tells me that not everything is okay with this man. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son he has to go to university, get a job, or get out? My wife and I have 3 children. They are 17, 15, and 10. My oldest has no intention to do anything after high school, or at least none he has made clear to us. So I gave him the same ultimatum my parents gave me. Either go to university, get a job, or GTFO. I chose to travel the world for 2 years. I had a lot of sailing experience, and my father had a lot of friends in that community, so I was able to sail around the world. earning money and working my butt off. It wasn't a 2-year vacation. My family's well off, and I could have chosen an indolent life, but I knew I would be a disappointment if I chose that. So, when I got back, I enrolled in university and eventually went to work for the family business. My wife thinks I'm being unfair to our poor baby boy, throwing him out into the world. I'm not. We have the money to pay for his university. We have the money for all 3 kids. My middle child will probably end up with a good chunk of it in her pocket. She's on track for an academic as well as a golf scholarship. The 10-year-old is 10, and who knows what he's going to do. But he knows the plan. We have not been secretive about this rule. My wife and I agreed that we would raise productive members of society before we got engaged. But now, heard my son think I'm being cruel to expect him to fend for himself at 18. I have offered him multiple opportunities to do other things, but he has no interest in anything beyond his computer. I am at a loss. I don't think I'm wrong for expecting an adult to adult. My parents have already told him that they will not be giving him any money if he isn't in school or working, but my wife is threatening to use her salary to support him. I don't have any say in that. I won't actually kick him out of the house, but I will stop paying his bills and cut off our grocery budget by 20%. If she wants to work so he doesn't have to, there is nothing I can do about that. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, assuming that a trade school, apprenticeship, or community college would also be acceptable. That's school or a job, so yes. Then I think you should be very concerned about why a 17-year-old doesn't have plans or ambitions. But you're not the a-hole for having expectations that he either be in school or working. It's not fending for oneself when the parents tell the kids, go to university, we pay for it, you stay under our roof. Or, work, keep your money to yourself, you stay under our roof. Or, choose to do nothing with your life and you'll have to fend for yourself. Not at all. You don't even give him ultimatums about what to study or what job to take. He could bum around from major to major or from minimum wage job to another, while figuring out what he wants to do with his life, with all expenses paid. He's not going to get sudden inspiration on how to spend his adult life by staying home and doing nothing. Not the a-hole for actually parenting your kid. This comment could not be said enough. I hope his wife and son are acting like he has to be a doctor or get kicked out. Like, no, just do something productive. Not the a-hole, but all your efforts will be pointless if you and your wife can't get on the same page. I think you need to talk this out further with her. Try and make her see you're helping him in the long run by making a firm boundary on this. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not attending my cousin's wedding because they sent my invite to my parents' house? My 26 female first cousin, Kyle, 30 male, got married a few months ago and I didn't go because I wasn't officially invited. Now I'm getting heat from my family and I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole. I say this because my other cousin, Kyle's sister, messaged me a month before the wedding. And she's like, hey, you going to the wedding in November? And I was like, oh, I don't think so. I haven't been invited to any weddings. She explained that my invite had been sent to my parents' house. But here's the kicker. They all know I'm estranged from my mom and dad. We haven't talked in 2 years. So obviously no one told me about my invite even if I was invited. Plus, I haven't lived at home in 8 years. And I've moved to 2 different major cities in that time. So this is where I might have been the a-hole. I said that I was never actually invited to the wedding. No one asked me where my address was, and I'm not just going to ask Kyle where my invite went and risk inviting myself to the wedding. If he really wanted me there, he would have made an effort to contact me himself. Therefore, I was never actually invited and I won't be attending. She left me on red, and I never heard from them on Christmas. Some of my friends understand, but others think I'm being stubborn and the groom may have been too busy to worry about my invite, while my entire family's ignoring me. What do you all think? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Yeah, just explain that you didn't go because you thought you weren't invited, and you didn't know about it because you don't talk to your parents. I would apologize to your cousin for not going and say you didn't know he wanted you there. Thank you. This is good advice. Agreed. A nice gesture to smooth things over would be to offer a wedding gift and or plan to visit with them in the new year to celebrate. Not the a-hole. They know you don't speak to your parents. And a month beforehand, they found out you never received an invite. If Kyle had wanted you there, he should have personally called you, apologized for not having your address correct, and asked if you could attend. It is a phone call that would take a few minutes. Your family sucks for ignoring you over this. This is a situation they created. Personally, it sounds to me like someone in that family group, probably aunt or uncle, was trying to force Opie to see/speak to her parents. Why else would they send the invite there when she hasn't lived there for 8 years? Why would they hear about Opie's text reply and a groom not follow up? Not the a-hole. And now for the update. Thanks for letting me know what you think. I will reach out to Kyle and wish him well on his marriage. I will just say I wasn't expecting people to be so mean about mine and my parents' estrangement, but I will say that I will never regret stopping the mistreatment as soon as I could. I hope if you're in the same situation, you'll find strength to do the same. Cheers! Update. Would I be the a-hole for refusing to host my cousin's wedding reception? Original post. I, 24 female, got married very recently to my husband, 28 male. About a year ago, before we got married, we purchased our first home. We did extensive renovations on a house and put a lot of thought, time, care, and money into it. It is our dream home, sanctuary, a forever home we don't plan to let go of. My cousin, 33 female, recently got engaged and is going to get married this year. She and I are very different in personality, so we have never been close. Our families, however, could not be closer. Her dad and mine are brothers. Some background. She and her husband, 33 male, both currently live with their respective parents. She was pursuing a nursing degree, but left the program. She's not working right now. Her husband works. I don't know how much he makes, but it's an average income job. I mention this because they want to throw a big, extravagant wedding. I have my personal opinion about this, but I also understand that my opinion doesn't matter. It's their wedding, their life. I have never voiced anything other than a congratulations on the engagement. The issue is when there is an expectation that family should help them achieve this. I eloped with my husband, and while we didn't have a public wedding, we did throw an intimate reception in our new property. We live in a very quiet, scenic rural area on a small acreage. It is private and thoughtfully landscaped. We have a natural pond and our property is surrounded by the woods. We chose not to disturb the land around us too much, so some of the property line is in the woods. All this to say, it's not a lot of space as it seems when I say acreage. And also to say, without a doubt, it made for a very nice outdoor venue. I understand the appeal, but the key difference is we had small wedding reception. My cousin wants a big one with 80 plus guests. Still, I decided to hear my cousin out. I didn't know at the time how big she wanted her reception to be. I was placed under the impression that it would be like ours. I invited my cousin over, and she and I talked about how I set up my reception. I gave her kind of an outline she could use, including all the catering, decor, florists, etc. I made her a meticulous package on Google Docs and shared it with her. She seemed to agree with everything I was saying with a smile. I told her my husband is away for 3 weeks and I will be gone for a week as well. And if she wants, she is welcome to do some planning. Just give me a heads up. I always give my mom access to my house just in case, especially since both my husband and I travel a lot. My mom texted me if my cousin can come in with someone to plan seating arrangements outside, and I told her as long as she, my mom, is present to oversee, they can come. That's when I learned through my mom that she's planning an 80-plus guest wedding and extending the reception into our house, which I explicitly said in person and in my Google Docs is off limits. My mom told her she cannot tour with the organizer the inside of the home, that the owners have not given permission. This upset my cousin. When the organizers left, she became very upset and stormed out on bad terms. Her mother then called my mother to complain ruthlessly about me. I just got back today, and I'm told I'm being accused of being spoiled and selfish and small-hearted. None of these accusations feel warranted. I talked to my husband about what happened, and he told me the bride and her family are being disrespectful toward me, and as such, they do not deserve to host in our home altogether. He said he would revoke the invitation himself. I told him let me think about it, how to best proceed. Would it be wrong to go back on my word and tell her I can't host her reception? It will cause her problems, but it's not my problem. Here is where I feel a bit a-holy. Edit. They're now offering to cut down the guest list, but I feel like the trust is no longer there. and their sudden animosity towards me makes me hesitant to put my home and self-respect at risk just to appease extended family members. I don't believe they will follow through with their promises or honor the boundaries I've set. I feel like I was misled under false pretenses into agreeing in the first place. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Agree 110% with your husband. Revoke the invitation and be done with it. Entitled cousin has champagne tastes on a beer budget. No matter what you do, she's going to be hateful. So set her free. She doesn't even have a beer budget by the sound of things. Not the a-hole. Call a family meeting to talk to everyone all at once in a public place. Say your piece and keep it simple, fair, and unemotional. If in a one-party state, record a blow-up subtly. Or make sure it is in an area with no expectation of privacy. Once they are done acting like entitled idiots, make them aware of the recording. And that if they start spreading rumors or talking about you negatively, you will have to set the record straight. Wish the couple the very best, but while you are a family and were nice enough to extend the offer, their attitude has shown that they do not respect others, and you no longer trust them. They're on their own to fund their life in all aspects. Apologize to your father/uncle if this causes strife, but it is not your responsibility to deal with that behavior, and you expect better manners from family, especially if they try to use family as their leverage for freebies. Not the a-hole. And in the discussions, did she ever mention who would be responsible for the cleanup? I'm sure they'd leave it for you and your husband. The cleanup alone is enough to not let the reception in your house. You're so right. I feel like she didn't even read my document, because once I agreed she had made the secret plan to do what she wants. Don't forget bathrooms. I bet people will end up in your house at some point, unless you guys lock up the house. Then she will need to bring in porta potty for guests. Also, not sure if special insurance will be needed in case someone gets hurt on your property. You would be liable for this. Now for the first update. I was encouraged to make an update. Some clarification of the venue. We have a carriage house next to our main house. In between the two buildings is a courtyard. The reception would have been held in this courtyard, as well as in the carriage house for an indoor/outdoor feel. The weather where we live is not an issue. My husband was even going to string market lights between the two buildings. We have a very large finished bathroom in the carriage house that would have been for the guests. I was also going to utilize the mudroom of the main house, which has another bathroom for guests with easy access from the courtyard. The mudroom has good separation from the main part of the house, mostly by a large breezeway. We have a long drive that leads to the house, so parking would have not been an issue either. All this to say, the setup would have been perfect for a small reception. We would have thoughtfully taken care of it all. We had no issues when my husband and I hosted our own wedding reception. I love hosting and went into this genuinely happy to host. But it was always based on the understanding that my cousin's reception would be the same size/scale as ours, small and intimate. She never corrected me when I explained capacity. I sent her my notes and stuff for my reception. It had seating plans too. I think she always had the intention of securing my home as a venue and then doing what she wanted with it, hoping to get it done in my absence. When she realized my mom would supervise her visit to my house while I was away, her plan fell apart and landed us where it did. After my mom caught my cousin trying to arrange seating for guests way over the approved capacity, my cousin's family started to slander me for shutting her ideas down. I got called a lot of things I am absolutely not. This included jealous and saboteur for not being accommodating last minute. Their behavior toward me and their entitlement over our home angered my husband, who was still away. I talked it over him and we decided I should not host my cousin's reception. My cousin and her family tried to bargain with my mother, their attempt to bypass my no. They even tried to hide their phone numbers to trick my mom into answering. My cousin and her family began bullying my poor mother to convince me to accept a smaller guest list. Still over capacity, by the way. All this time they went for my mother. My phone stayed silent. I called my cousin to stop harassing my mother because I am firm in my decision to no longer host her. The trust is not there, and their behavior makes me not want to host them. She blew up on me during this conversation, expressing that I will be single-handedly botching the wedding if I back out of providing her a reception venue, and that I am cruel for not being able to do this one thing for her during a once-in-a-lifetime milestone. She told me to just please see things from my perspective and think about it. I told my husband I am tired of the cousin and her family not taking my no for an answer. I have been respectfully direct, but they keep trying to persuade me and it's very exhausting. I know they're only saying things to get me to say yes, but they will likely not honor any of it. He said he will take care of it. He called my cousin and told her we will not be hosting her, and her disrespect towards me will also not be tolerated. He told her I was always clear on capacity, and the tantrum she and her family are throwing is because they hope to trick me into allowing a bigger reception than I approved. For the failure of that, she only has herself to blame. She started crying and asked my husband if she could throw a smaller reception at the approved capacity. My husband said we are way past negotiation. He will not allow it, not even if I ask him to. I know he said this to give me an out, and I appreciate it a lot. He told my cousin not to contact me or my mother about this request again because he will be the one they have to answer to from now on. They haven't called or texted, but my cousin tried to DM me on Instagram, and my husband sent her a voice note from my account in the chat. So I think she will stop now. Wow, their behavior has been pretty disgusting. They thought they could trick/bully you into doing this. Glad you had your mom and husband on your side. The backhanded treachery is the worst part of it, tacitly agreeing to the conditions while actively planning on breaking them. And all the relatives are mad because they didn't get to party at OP's place. Yeah, and OP hasn't mentioned anything about if they were giving them money to cover the cost of hosting them, or whether they were expected to cover that too. Sorry for not including that. The groom/bride's family were paying for everything except for a few things my husband kindly offered to pay for. One of these was hiring valet to handle parking, but that was something he wanted to do to protect us/our property. But I know he would have generously offered cover to help the event run smoothly. This was supposed to be a 40-people max event. She tried to bring in over double that. Not the a-hole. You know, I'm not always fond of guys being placed in positions where we have to play the mean, scary man role. But I won't deny it's definitely effective when you've got a bunch of cowardly people who talk trash until someone stands up out of their chair at an average height of a male individual and speaks a little above indoor volume. He had a figurative big stick, and he used it to perfection. I absolutely agree. I try not to use my husband until I absolutely have to, and wish I could have handled it entirely on my own, but it wasn't working with these people. The experience has definitely made me reflect on my assertiveness though, and how it can improve, especially when it's quite clear my cousin and her family were counting on me being someone they could get their way with/manipulate. Second update. This will be my final update regarding this issue, and I will keep it short. My cousin ended up having her wedding reception at a different relative's property. I did not attend, and neither did my husband. This is because during the time between us saying no and her still looking for an alternative venue, she made an extremely racist remark about my husband. Along with that, in a group chat screenshot that was sent to me, she called him, in exact quotes, controlling a tall mother tyrant and misogynist effer. All of this because my husband was zero tolerance about her entitled behavior and would not let her go around him. I decided to boycott the wedding. I did not want to celebrate with her. I've also gone no contact with her family. During all this, only my uncle, her father, apologized for my cousin's bridezilla behavior. My cousin and her mother have continued to remain firm on the fact that I am an ungenerous and cold-hearted person who doesn't help family. I have a small heart basically. I have urged my mom to do the same, go no contact, but I will leave it up to her own discretion. About 110 people showed up to my cousin's reception party. From what I hear, people were peeing in the bushes and stuff. Lots of littering, some property damage, and someone injured themselves, warranting an ER trip, lighting firecrackers. I think some parking violations also happened, for which there are fines. I think that's all. End of update. PSA. I highly recommend you don't ever host anyone's reception/wedding. It's honestly not worth it, as they're a whole different beast. I love to host small dinner parties, soirees, and events, but this was kind of eye-opening. And I realized how out of my depth/naive I was to have ever said yes. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom if she was a real mom, she would divorce her husband after he destroyed my career? My mom has been a witch ever since I met my wife and she met her husband. She hates her. She hates me. She sucks now, but to be fair, she used to be the best mom. I had a damn good childhood. Anyway, my mom's husband Richard has always hated me. He encourages my mom to go no contact, loudly announces how much happier she is during periods of no contact, and has said unforgivable things about my wife. I hardly tolerate him these days. Anyway, my wife is an angel, but like a normal wife and mother, has some stress. One thing she really struggles with is the pressure of being married to a businessman and all that entails. My wife hates my boss's wife and sometimes makes fun of her behind her back, but I view it as a normal healthy venting. My mom doesn't even know this other woman, but jumps in to defend her. So I've asked my wife not to do it around her anymore. Well, the other day, my mom's husband was playing golf and met my boss. He recognized him from hearing his position and told him he knew me. Then he started it on, "Do you know what his wife says about yours?" and told him everything. My boss called me into his office and tore me to pieces. It was humiliating, and now I feel my career is in jeopardy. He's been giving me all the crappy work lately and making jokes at my expense. I drove to my mom's house and asked Richard why he did this, but he just started laughing. My mom lightly slapped his shoulder and told him he shouldn't have done it, but she wasn't that bothered. I finally lost it and yelled at her that if she was a real mom, she would divorce him. But I know the moment I leave, she's going to cook his dinner and probably do more because she doesn't care about her kid. Not the a-hole. If there was ever anyone who should be totally no contact with his family, it's you. To be honest, the writing is on the wall as far as your job goes, so I would start looking for a new one sooner than later. Also, think about moving. Sometimes a fresh start in a new area is what people need. Your spouse seems to be in need of maturing. She wasn't at all jealous or should have behaved that way toward your boss's wife. She's being a major bully. This is not healthy venting. Everyone sucks here. Your wife and mother don't get along, so why did your wife talk smack in front of the mother-in-law? It's the oldest issue in the book, that the mother-in-law or the wife will find ways to screw each other over. Also, you could have simply denied to your boss and told him the guy has it out for you but has a record of lying. It was a he said, she said situation. But the easiest way for word to not get back to boss that you and or wife was crap talking his wife is to never talk crap in front of anyone, let alone someone who clearly would love to use anything they can get to mess with you. Wife sucks for talking about anyone in front of mom. Her husband sucks for tattling. And OP sucks for throwing this little tantrum when he should be distancing himself instead. Why are you chasing after your mom like this? She ain't going to dump him, so find a way to pull back. And definitely don't give her any gossip fodder when you do see her. Not the a-hole. However, no one in this story seems like a particularly good person. I feel like I need to know more about why your wife hates your boss's wife. I'm sure she has her reasons, and your boss is immature for how he handled the situation. You should definitely go no contact with your mother and her husband. Blowing up on them and saying the things you did was probably not the right thing to do. But it's over now.